We never understood why, because we felt that he's gone through the Public Service Commission and all of those things. So we went to court, and I was his lawyer in the matter. At the end of the day, the court said, well, the minister has the power to do all of these things. So once the minister says, go back to UDS, it is within his power so to do. And that is how we ended up, you know, in that matter. I recall vividly also some national service directors who were appointed in the dying stage of 2016. Again, I was their lawyer. We went to the labor court. At the end of the day, the court said, well, for whatever is worth. So I'm saying that...
So they have been fired by the new administration?
Yes. They had been appointed district directors of national service, among others. The new government came and said, no, they had problem with the situation under which they were recruited, among other in the transition conversation. And I recall at that time, Nanayo Osafo was senior minister or so. So when the directive came, we said, no, we have been regularly, you know, recruited. And for that matter, we cannot be, as it were, dismissed or sacked. The government says no, and we went to court. I represented about 15 of them. At the end of the day, the court disagreed with us, and we had to basically just be at home. So the reason why I'm raising this issue...
And this is something you're going to continue also with? Because we do...
No, that does not lie with me. I mean, the courts have, in a way, validated those actions. Such actions. So it doesn't lie with me to say... I mean, at that point, I disagreed with the view, because I thought that a person who had been appointed director of national service to a district should be protected, having become a public servant or civil servant. But the court took a different view, questioned the mode of appointment and all of those things. So I see all of these things replayed in many of the organizations now. People being appointed post-election and all of those things. But I think at the right time, a decision will be taken on those matters.
Right. Let's go to our substantive.
Let me make a quick comment. See, the point is that a political party goes to the Ghanaian with a manifesto, with ideas that they want to implement. So when they win the election, it is assumed that Ghanaians have given them that mandate. So if Kofi Tonto, I sit in an office and I've clearly indicated publicly that I disagree with the ideas in that manifesto, why am I still sitting in that office? Because clearly, I don't believe in those ideas. How am I going to help the president prosecute that agenda? I hope you get the point that I'm making. So it is only fair that once you've indicated that I don't believe
once you're politically exposed.
Yeah, not just that, but once you've taken a political position and that political party prosecuted a campaign based on ideas, which ideas you disagreed with, you cannot, therefore, be the one to implement those ideas.
Okay.
So I cannot sit in an office to implement President Mohammed's ideas. That would be completely wrong, because I've publicly stated that I disagreed with those ideas. So you should make way for President Mohammed to appoint his people, so he can implement those ideas, so we can hold him accountable.
Okay, let's go to our subject for today, and it has to do with something significant that happened, I think, over the weekend. Some say it's a consolidation, some say it's a reduction of ministries from 30 to 23, and pretty surely my producer is going to, you know, put that on the screen so Ghanaians can have a fair idea of exactly what's happened, right? So we've seen a reduction from 30 to 23. As I indicated earlier on, some say it's a consolidation. And so some of the club's ministries that we no longer will be seeing under the John Mahama administration includes information, railway, sanitation, chieftaincy, national security ministry, public enterprises, parliamentary affairs. And some of the merged ministries include that of the chieftaincy, which has been merged with local government to form the Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. We have Works being merged with Water Resources to form the Ministry of Works, Housing and Water Resources. And then we are seeing the Sports Ministry being separated from Youth to form the Ministry of Sports and Recreation and the Ministry of Youth Development and empowerment. So these came up, I think, on Saturday or so, and John Mahama receiving quite a number of applause for his latest decision. Of course, you can imagine that it's coming from the backdrop of Nana Addo's first tenure, where we had over 100 ministries or so being reduced to some 30 or 90. Before I bring you in, though, I need to read briefly what Bright Simmons has been saying about this. He wrote a piece over the weekend, and I'm just going to read bits of it. He says, cutting down the number of ministries and ministers is thus an exercise in, quote, reading the sentiments of the public and in being responsive, and not about lean and efficient government reforms per se. Now, being a listening government can have its own rewards separate from efficiency gains. To actually move in the direction of government efficiency, you must ask whether the thousands of workers in collapsed ministries would leave the government payroll or would simply be redistributed. How come we never touch the actual agencies where 98% of public workers and government business reside? Ministries are merely the tip of the iceberg. Agencies like the Police Service, the Ghana Education Service, the Ghana Revenue Authority are far heftier. State-owned enterprises like the GNPC and ECG matter in every respect of spending efficiency than 60% of ministries. Now, will there be less spending on bureaucracy across the government as a whole following the reduction in the number of ministries? Where are the financial numbers to prove this? If you went back in history and compared spending on office of government machinery before and after listening governments cut down on the numbers of ministers, you might be surprised to see that the expense tends to increase year on year regardless. Furthermore, ministries are very varied. There are some like the Ministry of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs that received on average less than $5 million a year as its entire budget. The funny Ministry of Parliamentary Affairs, that's how he puts it, gets barely $600,000 a year. Frankly, ministries like that and the one for business development won't be missed anyway. They look like nuisances. On that score alone, citizens like to see them axed, but their total burden on the exchequer is puny. And I recall then Finance Minister Oforiatta, when there was all this complaint about the large government size, said, listen, when you look at percentage-wise in terms of the national budget, the amount of money spent on ministers and all that, it's really negligible.
So you see, I have data here, budgetary allocations for the Office of Government Machinery, 2015 to 2024. In
2015 to 2024?
Yes. In 2015, the budgetary allocation to the Office of Government Machinery was 453 million Ghana cedis. In 2016, it rose to 718 million Ghana cedis. Now, guess what? From 718 million in 2017, it rose from 718 million to 1.5 billion cedis. Then in 2028, from 1.5 billion, it went to 1.942 billion cedis. 2019, it went to 1.9 billion. 2020, from 1.9 to 4 billion, obviously election year. 2021, it came down to 2.9 billion cedis. 2022, it went back to 3.1 billion cedis. Significantly, in 2023, it came to 1.4 billion. 2024, it went back to 2 billion cedis. Wow. Yes. Now, you see, if you look, and I'll dovetail to the concerns raised by Mr. Bright Simmons. You see, efficiency is taken in different ends. So on this table, assuming it's a farmland, if you ask 10 people to work on it, what will be the level of productivity? The same table, farmland, measure this. If you add 20 people, what will be their level of productivity of the same? These are matters that economists many years ago have always had conversations with. And that brings the issue of efficiency, output, among other things. Now, what H.E. John Dramani Mahama has done is that there was an executive instrument, 2021, that created about 30 ministries. Today, he had seen that the work done by these 30 can be done by 23. In the immediate, for me, what I see is that would have been in need of 30 V8s for 30 ministers. Just by reason of this decision, you're going to have a situation where you don't need 30 V8s again. From a governance and cost perspective, you will need 23.
So, for the optics, it looks good. But in essence,
no,
really,
in essence too, what is the optics? The optics is that you're going to need 30 V8 for 30 ministries. Now you are going to do 23. That's 7 reduction, together with fewer costs, bodyguards, among others. At a point, we had 126 ministers and deputies. H.E. John Dramani Mahama is committed to the 60. Nothing more, nothing else. Not even one addition. I'm privy to some conversation where people say, oh, Mr. President, is it possible that regional ministers will be out of the 60 or something? He said, look, the promise to the good people of this country is 60 ministers. And 60 is 60. I mean, you get it. So he's committed. He said, look, I don't want to start my presidency by broken promises. My promise to the people of this country is that I am going to solve the problem of Ghana with 60 ministers. And 60 means 60. It doesn't leave any ambiguity. This is mathematical precision. A 60 is 60. It is not like politics where you can say 60 might appear 60.1, 60.2 or something. Mathematical precision. 60 is 60. And so far, from everything that had come, if you are going to, it means that some ministries may not even have deputies. You understand? Some ministries may not even have deputies because they are already civil servants within the space who are doing so well that can also perform those key tasks. If you look in the past, local governments stand alone, chieftaincies stand alone. Now they have been merged. Your local governance minister should be able to relate well with our chiefs. In fact, because the chiefs live actually within the local authorities. And so if you need a separate minister to be dealing with them, then that becomes problematic. So these things have been carefully looked at, and the president is very focused of achieving the campaign promise to the people of this country. Look, I say this, and I say it with a certain level of, should I say, pride. I recall one of the key matters during the campaign, and I remember having this issue with my brother. You know, H.E. John Dramani Mahama had gone to Volta region during the campaign, and organized labor had asked him in one of the town hall meetings, oh, what about their salary agitation? He said, oh, I'm pleading with you. Upon assumption of office, give me some small space. So he used the word honeymoon, and the MPP launched on it. And so John Mahama says, so when he becomes president, you will leave the office and go and have honeymoon. You understand? Today, as we are all aware, right from the day when he got elected, he's been working to today. Nothing like honeymoon. Do you get it? So I always make the point that the actions usually speak louder than words. He's president today, and every single day he comes out with something new. It's either directing the IGP to commission an investigation into the killings,
we're going to come
and
back
all
to
of
that,
those.
yeah.
So the point I'm making overall is a president who has immediately hit the ground running. Because you see, the enormity of the problem, so huge, that every day is a day to reset and a day for change.
I think people are excited about the latest announcement, but what they're asking for is beyond the optics. And it's especially
this
because
is not, like I pointed out,
it's
this
especially
is not,
because of where we're coming from.
If you move 30 to 27. It's not, it goes beyond optics because the savings are clear. And like I demonstrated,
have we been able to quantify the savings?
You see, like I always say, this is measurable. If in the past, a minister needed V8, and a V8 costs, the least you can have, maybe $100,000. Let me just say conservative, $100,000. If you are no longer going to need V8 for 7 ministers, that already amounts to $700,000. Even from the start.
Aren't we oversimplifying it?
No.
So what people are saying is beyond the numbers. Can we see a lot more work being done in terms of efficiency? We have state-owned enterprises like, Cocoa Board. There's a lot of inefficiency there. Can you go beyond just the reduction or measure of ministries to do a lot more? So you see a lot more significant savings.
When the efficiency conversation comes, it also comes to the question of downsizing.
Right.
You understand? You want to downsize and to achieve. At this critical moment, you really need to do proper assessment. And that is not a conversation at this critical moment. What happens, you gave the example and in Bryce Simon's piece when he talks about ECG, Cocoa Board. You need to first go and say, this person who is... GMPC. This person who is working here, he's not needed. Until you do that need assessment, it will be premature to make the conversation that the numbers here are overly populated or not. I strongly believe that we need more hands to work because the problems are huge. We need more hands. What I support, and I always do, is that we should give everybody benchmark performance indicators. Now you work here as director. What is your output level? Are you idling? If those ones are not answered, and these are matters, that's the work of other people to measure output. Somebody can come here, and I use Media General because of convenience, and say, you don't need this number of maybe producers, or you don't need this number of presenters. The person is not here. He doesn't know what exactly you are doing here. So looking at but today I have seen Pakwesi hosting business focus. Today he's the one doing this. So let Pakwesi do business focus and come in the morning to come and do this and so and so. So you don't need this number of, but each one of you have a unique skill set that you bring to the table at the end of the day. So it is not enough to put the numbers there. So ECG, Cocoa Balls, so and so. No. Look,
I'll come back to you.
You
know what you say right now, it reminds me of the Nado's argument and justification for the first time when people said, listen, the number of ministers are too many. And he said, listen, it will be justified by the works. And we saw the works at the end of 2020. Tonto, have a look at it. You've got to give President Mahama some applause.
No, you see, but I've already told you that I want President Mahama to succeed. So I'm not the one to just criticize.
So you're excited about this?
No, I'm coming. I'm not the one to criticize for criticizing sake. I want to do an objective analysis of every issue. The question is, in principle, I'm not against the need to reduce if there is indeed a need to reduce. I'm simply not for wholesale reduction just to please people. That I don't agree.
What do you mean by that?
This issue is a case of optics and substance. You can reduce for optics purposes, but not for substance. And we must move away as Ghanaians as we grow.
But in politics, optics mean everything.
Optics matter. I get it. But ultimately, you said what was the outcome. See, it's a case of input and output. So we need to, as we look at the optics, what should really matter to us is the substance. What are we getting out of these decisions? Because you can do all the optics. If nothing meaningful comes out of it, Ghanaians will not benefit. So the point is that I have no issues if President Mahama wants to reduce from 30 to 23. I have no issues. But the question is, what is the empirical data to show that there's real gain for us in terms of value?
But the man just came into office. He's barely a week into office.
No. I'm saying that. I'm pushing the debate beyond the optics. That the questions we have to ask ought to go beyond a reduction. As journalists, as Ghanaians, we have to pursue further information in furtherance of the real substance, so that it doesn't become a case of we've just reduced. For example, I'll give you a very typical example. You are collapsing chieftaincy and religious affairs and merging it with another. When you look at the budget line for that ministry, it was $500,000 or so. $500,000, if not cedis. I forgot the denomination and the currency, but let's say $500,000. But the question we have to ask ourselves is that if we have a minister for chieftaincy and religious affairs, what is the value gain for us as a people? You see, our democracy is not idle. It takes a lot of work, social cohesion, peace, etc. What role is our religious institutions and chieftaincy institutions playing to ensure that we get the democracy?
But that's not being completely scrapped.
No, I'm saying that you are merging it, so the sharp focus is therefore removed.
Right.
So I'm saying that if it costs you $500,000 to enhance your social cohesion, is it better that way, or is it better to merge it and potentially reduce your social cohesion? So are we putting value on social cohesion, or we want to collapse just to collapse? And I like the point Eduji made about metrics. If you have railway ministry, for example, if I am the president, I will not merge it. Because you cannot talk about 24-hour economy, which relies on mode of transportation. It means that you have to quickly scale up on how we transport goods and services. So I would rather give a KPI to the ministry and say that I want to see 1,000 kilometers of railway in strategic places and give me value. Ultimately, how much...
But that's why you're not John Mahama.
No, I know, but that's why we are debating the issue. So
you think there was value? You think there was value in the railway ministry?
But Kofi, you see, if you look at the list, there's a separate ministry for transport. Now, and you see, H.E. John Dramani Mahama is coming with that experience, because you see, in 2016, prior to 2016, he had a separate ministry for transport that dealt with railway, that dealt with aviation and general transport issues. At that time, the people who conceived the idea of Tema Port expansion were the same people. That's Matrix. The people who conceived the idea of doing the railway line from Tema to Impakadan were within the transport ministry. The people who conceived Terminal 3 were within the transport ministry. So the point I am making is that you can still have a minister of transport. Nana Addo decided to have a separate ministry for aviation, correct? And a separate ministry for transport.
You had railways, you had aviation.
And railway, exactly. But I'm saying that all these major projects, what's the name? Terminal 3, Tema Port Expansion Project, Takoradi Port Expansion Project, Tema Impakadan Railway Line, all those Takoradi Kojokrom Railway, Amandi and Co. were working on, were conceived by a Minister of Transport, may her soul rest in peace, Madam Jafar Tibo, with one deputy, Madam Joyce Bauer. Subsequently became Fifi Kwete. You understand? So you can achieve all these things that you are talking about within one ministry. You don't need a separate. In any case, when it got separated,
the problem is that I have not. The point is that I have not disputed your argument. Maybe you are not listening to me carefully. I am saying that the argument should go beyond optics. If there is evidence that a merged ministry gives us the efficiency and the value we are looking for, I don't have a problem.
Very well.
I am simply saying that we shouldn't create the impression that merging alone solves anything.
Nobody has said that.
No, it's a conversation. It's not about what we have said. It's about what the general public have also put out. The feeling, you said that people are excited. Excited based on what? Just collapsing?
No, I don't think so. When you look at where we're coming from, you know, from about over 100 ministers to 60 now, that's exciting. That's good, that's good for the office.
You're not getting my point. I'm saying that why are people excited? Are people excited simply because
the president
we have reduced it?
The president is keeping to his promise.
That's fine. But the point is simply reducing it enough? That is the argument.
But that cannot be determined now. Do you agree that?
Of course, that can be determined now.
No, but I'm even saying that there is a history. When H.E. John Dramani Mahama was president, he had a minister for transport and one deputy, Madame Jiffa Chibo. May her soul rest in peace. Then he moved to Joyce. And I'm saying that with that ministry, they conceived Tema Impakadan, Terminal 3. They conceived the harbor and implemented it.
No, they didn't implement it.
No, by the time you came, by the time you came to
hear from Andrew.
Parliament had already put the money.
I need to hear from Andrew. Allow him to land. But I think we must. There's no data to suggest that large size of government ensures efficiency. There's also no data to say that a smaller government size will ensure efficiency.
I think history suggests.
The point that I'm making to you is that I told you earlier that I have no issues of President Mahama reducing the size. And then said that we need to go beyond that. As a nation, we need to start demanding for outputs, the indicators that will indicate that, okay, this decision, ultimately, this is the output that we can expect, which will be beneficial for Ghanaians. That is what we should really channel the conversation to. Because, for example, if you reduce a ministry and you take away the minister and the V8 so-called, the employees are still there.
That is true.
What forms the bigger chunk of the cost? Is it the minister and the V8 or the employees? So it's not just a simple conversation of reduction. So I'm not necessarily saying that what President Mahama has done is bad. I'm saying that let's elevate the discourse, as Bright was trying to do.
That's exactly what he's saying.
Yes, let's elevate the discourse beyond reduction and begin to look as a people. What is it really that we are looking for? Ediji made a point about farmland. Ghana is not constant. Our problems are not constant. Our problems are agile and ever moving and ever expanding. So you cannot use as constant logic to solve a Ghanaian problem. So there may be a need for 27 ministries, 23 ministries today. But tomorrow, President Mahama may see a need to add another ministry for concerted effort to achieve a particular outcome. If that need arises, we should allow that, because it shouldn't be just a case of reduction just to reduce. I hope you get the point that I make. Otherwise, we'll get the optics.
I think Brad has said that in his analysis.
Yes.
The mere fact that you reduced the size of your ministries doesn't mean that there'll be efficiency.
Exactly.
You know, there's going to be a more tested, tried and tested way of measuring efficiency.
So we need to go beyond that and ask more questions.
So let me hear from Andrews on this.
In fact, I think on the issue of the reduction of the ministries, and if you place it in the larger context of public sector reforms, and if you also analyze one of the critical issues why we always go to IMF, being the fact that consistently we spend close about 60% of government revenue on just paying
salaries.
Yeah.
It's about 40%.
About
43%.
So now, if you consider that, then this issue is a very critical issue. Because it's the reason why we've gone to the IMF for about 16 times. You understand? Now, I agree entirely with Bryce's view, Bryce Simon's view. You see, the issue isn't just about reduction in the ministries, but what we ought to do is to take a critical look at reforming a public sector. Because over the years, what we have done, governments have done successfully, is because of government's inability to create the environment where the private sector can absorb a lot of what's called create jobs. And what they do is that we just throw people into not just the ministries, but most importantly, the agencies and the departments. So you take Cocoa Board, you take GMPC. But one of the biggest criticism for the last regime wasn't just about the size of the ministries, but about what was happening in some of these. So, like you take the GMPC, right? There were reports that they had employed so many people there that they were doing some form of rotation. You take Bank of Ghana.
Yeah, a lot of agencies.
I understand. So for me, I think one, John Mahama says he was going to appoint 60 ministers. It's a step in the right direction for the optics, but it's just a very little step in the huge problem.
The huge problem.
It's just a little step.
So what if he had done 37? What would the conversation be?
37 what?
I'm assuming what if John Mahama decided to
increase it to 37.
What would the conversation be?
No, I would still stay the same.
That's what we are saying. You see, beyond the, so it's good for the optics. He promised. He's taking, and also my view is that it's a small step in solving what is a very large or a very big issue, and it shouldn't just end there, because if for 60 years, one of the reasons why we've gone to the IMF, one of the major reasons why we've gone to IMF, and one of the major reasons why the IMF keeps on telling us that anytime we go there, put a hold on public sector employment. I understand. Then, for me, reducing the size of the ministries to 23 should be just a small step. We should deliberately look into the entire public sector space. And in fact, if I want to expand the argument, like I said, my view is that one of the reasons why there's always that urge to employ people into the public sector, into the police, the fire service, and all, is because of a fundamental failure of the private sector to create the jobs. You understand? And so John also promised the 24-hour economy, whose focus is to create that environment where private sector can create jobs. Because if you go to the US, you struggle to convince people to go into the public service. Why? Because they have a very thriving private sector. So for me, we have to look at the issue holistically, and to do same is, first of all, to take steps that seeks to initiate a radical transformation of our public service. But also, to succeed there, we must also create that right environment where the private sector can create jobs. When that is done, that clamor for, that push for people wanting to go into the public service will be reduced. And the focus, or the reason why we are doing this, one being cost efficiency. Because you were mentioning data. But if there's one thing history has taught us, because data isn't the, if there's one thing history has taught us, that always small governments are always more efficient than large government. Also because of the removal of the bureaucracies and all those bottlenecks, and your ability to do effective monitoring. So I think on the debate of the benefits of a small government, I think it is pretty much settled in my view.
Okay.
But in Ghana, a peculiar issue in Ghana is the inability of governments, not just one government, successive governments, to create that right environment where private sector can create jobs. And because of that failure, governments are forced to employ more people, which has a very detrimental impact.
Beyond that argument, for instance, some have said there are big ministries like education, like health, like defense, for instance. And in education, we're having an allocation of about $2 billion, which is more than 20% of the budget's allocation. So shouldn't you be looking at agencies like education, for instance, and ensuring, that there is efficiency, how we allocate funds in that sector? Issues of procurement, for instance, these are major things. So why don't
you see, every year, and all of us agreed, government presents a budget and says that for this whole year, and usually the ministries, you are supposed to present your procurement plan for the entire year. You can put costs to the procurement plan for the year. So government says, okay, for Ministry of Education, save free SHS, you need maybe 4 billion Ghana cedis out of the entire budget, conservative numbers. Now, government now comes and say, okay, under Ministry of Education, there are allied agencies, formal or informal education, non-formal education, and all of those matters. These are the respective allocations for you. in all of this, what we are taking our eyes off is, it's a political space. It is easier for a private person to say, I'm downsizing. I'm reducing the numbers in the ministries. You compensate them and they'll go home. But in government cycle, it doesn't work that way.
We can't do that.
We can't, as it were, gloss our eyes over it. It's not, I mean, like somebody will say, whose father should go home?
Even the labor laws don't allow you
like
to
I
do
pointed out, there are very strict rules when it comes to the issue of governance. But what I have no doubt is that we can also have within, and which exists, each of the ministries, you have a director monitoring and evaluation. What exactly are we doing? Within Ministry of Health, we have said we want to build, say, and I'll use this example, Agenda 111. After, say, 5 years, how many of them have we built? I mean, that's the matrix.
Yeah.
How many of our hospitals are properly retooled? That's the matrix. How many of our people, quote unquote, possibly suffered from cholera? Do we need a Ministry of Sanitation to clean our cities, to keep our cities clean? Somebody can say that within the overall responsibility of local government ministry is the issue of sanitation. When we were growing, and when I was growing at Nkwanta, in the Oti region, the people we call tankers.
Yeah, I remember.
You dare not throw water anywhere because you are expected to be given some beating by your parents, because they fear that when tankers of people come, we will call them tankers. I understand it is town council that we have, you know, made it. When they come and there's rubbish around the community, they hold your parents responsible, and your parents will hold you what? Responsible. And you don't want to have that. Now today, go to our various assemblies. What is the nature of our sanitation problems? Have we solved it because we had a separate ministry for sanitation? So in the mind of somebody, you can have a president who keeps local government, including sanitation and everything, under local governance, okay? And say this is director in charge of sanitation and achieve a particular output. And I say this, President Anado Dankwa Akufo-Addo promised Accra will be the cleanest city and provided a separate minister for sanitation. After 8 years, if we have to measure the cleanliness of Accra by reason of having a separate ministry for sanitation, what will be the score? 100%, 50%, and others. So the benchmarking is proper. But I'm saying that at this critical moment, whether you downsize or not, there are political consequences that we cannot. All the three of us here are politicians. Should John Mahama be the one that tomorrow people will say, "Ina John Mahama ba ina obeyi me apa efi so and so"? Should he be the one to bear the cross? The young man who the young man who met Christ on the way. What's his name?
Difficult decisions.
The young man who met Christ on the way. Simon of Arimathea.
Okay.
You want your mama to be that.
Okay. We've got Dr. Jonathan Asante entry on the phone lines to join us. We've also got a number of your comments on our Facebook page, and I'm not going to read the ones with insults. I think we need to keep our language very decorous, and so I'll come back to the messages. But Jonathan, Dr. Jonathan Ochre, you've been listening to the conversation. Let me pick your thoughts on what you make of the president's latest announcement, the measure, or if you like, the consolidation or reduction of ministries from 30 to 23. Hello, sir.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Yeah. Good morning to colleagues in the studio and to your viewers. I think that in fulfillment of the promise that he made during the campaign, reducing the ministries from 30 to 23 in itself is very good. Whichever way you look at it, you can look at the semantics, you can think of the effect in terms of monetary, in terms of cost, reducing expenditure. All of these come together as part of the fulfillment, of the promise that he made during the campaign. Now, we may have some debate about some of the realignment, but to have, for example, the Ministry of Aquaculture and Fisheries outside the Agri Ministry is something that I felt that we could easily manage that. But of course,
the one employment, job, labor.
Pardon me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So to feed into the concepts or whatever you intend to do in terms of reducing a number, of course, to do some realignment. And I think that the issue of Ministry of Local Government, Chieftaincy, and, for example, religious affairs, that is good. After all, you need the chiefs to be part of our local governments. And so if you have imported or collapsed the substantive ministry and you've imported that into the Ministry of Local Governments, I think that is good. Sometimes I get a bit edgy in thinking that some of the ministries, either they are just in existence in terms of concept or in substance. Now, if you take water resources that have been added to works and housing, water resources, I really don't know exactly what the water resources that have been attached to that ministry is supposed to. I felt that it should have been somewhere else. Because I don't know whether, in terms of the function, of course, you will see that one ministry will be eating into the other, and you don't know who has authority over this and that. Because if you look at land and forestry, land and natural resources, why wouldn't we add the water resources to the land and natural resources? I felt that instead of, because it appears to me that it is disjointed, work and housing, and then you have water resources. I also felt that the Ministry of Transport, why would we have Ministry of Transport separate from roads and highways? I felt that they are all into some kind of transport in its main terms. So that is my view on that. Of course, there are some, I've not seen information, so obviously information may now be collapsed, and the Ministry of Communication, Digital Technology, Innovations. That is not the same. But we need to also look at the novelty that is brought. Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment. And you will remember that for the first time, as far as the two political parties are concerned, you had a youth manifesto read, colored out of the main manifesto, read out to all and sundry. That was very magnificent if they ask me. And if this particular ministry that has been created is anything to go by, then it means that whatever His Excellency President Mahama said during the campaign is what he's fulfilling. And I think that this is a good start by all standards. It is a good start. That's why I said that we have our own challenges with a few areas here and there. But in terms of substance, I think this is good. And his experience that he's touted is something that he's benefiting from. And I think that Ghanaians will be better off. Because if you look at it carefully, as a government, you come to meet a hugeness. There is no money. You are even thinking of how to renegotiate with the IMF, extend the program, so that you'll be getting some loans, another thing to run the economy. And that in itself will create some stability. Therefore, there is a need for you to keep the good will that the people have for you. And even if he's able to do about 62, because I was doing the calculation, Because the day, if you're having the substantive and the deputy, then it means we are talking about 46. And if you add a 16 right now, then that will give us, I think, 62 or so. So, I mean, even if you're able to do that 62, or I heavily suggest that to the fact that some of the ministries may end up not even having deputies because ministries like gender, children, children protection or something of that sort.
Social protection.
Pardon me?
Social protection.
Yes. I mean, that ministry can do without, a deputy. Maybe unless you want to give some, because usually that ministry is not combined by women. So if you have a deputy and then a substantive role, you have also created some kind of gender balance one way or the other. Now, when you have a situation where we are talking about 14.7 unemployment rate as at last year or so, then now you have other Ministry of Labor jobs, no longer labor and employment, jobs in addition. So it also gives the focus. It gives you a clear focus as to what the president intends to do. With trade, agribusiness, and industry. Well, I think that this particular ministry will do well with respect to 24-hour economy. And I believe some people who don't have those expertise, I think, I know, maybe when we get to some of the positions there, we'll look at those that include some of them.
All right.
Some of the ministries preoccupied by certain personalities.
All right.
Because, yeah.
Okay, I'm afraid we've got to leave it here. Thank you very much, Dr. Jonathan Asante-Otri, political analyst and senior lecturer at UCC. Let me come back in studio. We've got a few minutes to wrap up. Let me take a few of your comments. This one is Donatus James. He says the people who had 36 ministers without good results are now having issues with a good president who reduced it to 60. Yet TV3 host Pakwisi is entertaining that line of discussion. We Ghanaians are totally behind the president to reset the country to make it better. Kojo Fiagbe says President Mahama has started very well, and all I can say at this point is to wish him well. Fadil says, Kofi Tonto, when did you learn this? And I'm not going to go further. I will not allow you to denigrate any of our guests today. As for me, you can insult me, but leave my guests out of it. Daniel says, Pakwisi, they said you should ask Kofi Tonto about the 50 ministers promised by Baumia. We want to dilute the importance of this ministerial reduction. If Nanado spits you, I didn't get that. Bright Simmons has been cynical. No, that's fine. Good morning from Brand. He says His Excellency John Dramani Mahama should establish a cabinet where Dr. Hassan Rashid Pelpo must be captured because he's a man of integrity. I'll take this final one. Says President Mahama's decision to reduce the number of ministries from 30 to 23 is a significant step towards streamlining the government and improving efficiency. Let's wrap up. I want to start off from you, Eduji. Yeah. So recently, President Mahama asked the IGP to give him an update of fatalities that happened in the 2020 as well as the 2024 general elections. Your thoughts on that?
Yes, consistent with the president campaign promise. And in fact, he actually went to the families of the persons that were brutally murdered and promised that we're going to get to the bottom of this matter. My view is that we need to get to the point where we cannot have an election where anybody would die. The U.S. had their election much earlier before ours. Little is talk about people, getting, as it were, killed by reason of one reason or the other. We saw the events in this constituency in Central Region, Hawakumsins, Kaswa, where people were shot. We saw what happened in Tolon. We saw what happened in Karaga, and many other places. we need to get to a point where we believe and practice democracy to the point where we know election is just the power of your term. Right. You just go do it and go back home. Late in the evening, you come for the collation or sorting out of the result. You don't need to kill your fellow person. And so I believe that this thing is going to serve as a huge deterrent. Look, I've always said this. President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo had a glorious opportunity to make significant amends, even by reason of even his age alone. It put him in a better stead to do too many things differently. Look, after Ayaso West Wogon, the Commission of Inquiry, by very eminent people, the distinguished law professor Henrietta, the Emil Short, Professor Henrietta Mensah Bonsu, Emil Short, distinguished, Patrick Watson, former IGP. If in the wisdom of these people, they recommend that persons who were involved in those dastardly acts ought to be punished in one way or the other. There must be wisdom. And so for the presidency to issue a white paper to effectively downplay the involvement of Double, the involvement of Brian Achampo and co in that whole enterprise, it doesn't speak well. It gives people a sense that impunity is rewarded.
Right.
And so they fear. Look, in the whole scheme of affairs, there was a military officer, Colonel Opoku, who had specific mention in the report by the commission. What did we see later? Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo promotes him into a general to command, I think, the Southern Command, and he was in Kumasi, and the issue came up during the election. I am saying that when you have such a situation, it creates an impression that you can be lawless and you get promoted. We can have a better conversation about democracy without getting to that point. Look, Donald Trump, Jack Smith's report on Donald Trump and others is a hot matter in the U.S. That is a former president who gets, and it basically tells you that nobody is above the law. That's all.
I need to move on. Andrew, let me take your wrap-up comments.
In fact, one of the biggest plots on our democracy is the 8 people who died. And
the martyrs of democracy. Proceed.
The 8 people who died, and sadly the police, or the impression we are getting is that the police didn't do anything about it. That's an impression. Probably they did something, but the impression out there is that sadly the commander-in-chief of the Ghana Armed Forces then didn't tell us anything about during the last elections. In fact, during the last campaign, one of the biggest disappointments also was that His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia gave the impression that he didn't even know. As in when he met the press, a direct question was asked, and as in his mannerism and how he handled it, he suggested that he was not even aware that 8 of our compatriots lost their lives. For His Excellency John Mahama to rightly demand, and I don't know if it's an update or if it's instructing him to investigate. Because if it's an update, as in whichever way you all look at it, it does not put our IGP in the right light. And in my view, we don't like resigning. But as in
the IGP should be resigning.
8 of our compatriots lost their lives when they were undertaking one of their most basic civic duties.
They were at the collation center.
8 of our compatriots. Understand?
How do you blame the IGP for that?
Who is in charge of security in this country? Ultimately, is the president. But the IGP is in charge of internal security.
But he can only investigate that. He's not everywhere at every time.
You see, one of the fundamental, and I remember when he became the IGP, we saw a huge police presence around, and one of the reasons he gave was to deter. So now, if 8 people lose their lives whilst undertaking their most basic of civic responsibilities, and we do not know, the people of Ghana, we don't know whether investigation has been handled there's no messaging on it, nothing. During the last elections, about 3 or 4 of our compatriots also lost their lives. In fact, I said it on this your platform that I unfortunately found myself in not the Budgetary when they were burning some. I found myself there, and those practically I saw the police, but they were doing nothing. Now the point is for a new president to come and be asking you for updates. Now, for a new president to come to give the impression that we are now going to investigate these issues, then it's a massive
indictment.
On the competence and integrity of the IGP.
Really?
And yeah.
No, I just want, maybe in 2020 when the event happened, was Dan Paris to the IGP?
No.
Good. But then subsequently, you know, we did a petition. I remember, I think my boss then, Senior Malaba, I remember did a direct petition to the police. Nothing came out of it. And so the demand for more or less an update on this matter, I think is timely.
Listen, see, we always talk about governance.
Please wrap up.
Yeah, I'm wrapping.
Continue.
So it's not an excuse that he wasn't the IGP when the issue happened. We are talking about an issue, lives having been lost, in people, in citizens, participating in their most basic of civic responsibilities. Do you know what that can do to us, as in terms of people's decision to partake in elections or not, if there's a threat that they could lose their lives? So for me, the call is in the right direction, but beyond that, I think it's a massive indictment, massive one on the IGP, on the police, and on the presidency of His Excellency Nana.
Kofi, let me hear you. Wrap up comments.
So very quickly, Energy. See, the thing is that we've all had instances where we've all condemned vigilante acts, etc. And as a nation, we all came together.
The IGP then.
Okay. And at the time we all came together, a vigilante act was passed. Arguably, we all agree that we saw a sharp decline in such acts. You know, so I think Eduji ought to understand your penchant on attacking Akufo-Addo. Akufo-Addo is no longer the president. Oh, that's what you did. Please, that's what.
No, he criticized him. That's fair.
What's the difference between criticism and?
But you criticized President Mahama when he was in opposition. So that's fair. Yeah, there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. President Mahama was in opposition. You criticized him, so there's nothing wrong with that.
See why he's doing.
I will not allow him to insult. I will not allow him
No, and I've never done that.
I have the English masters. They have corrected me.
It's your time that's going on. Your time is going.
So the point is, you need to stop it. You are now in power.
No, we should criticize Akufo-Addo.
No, I'm not saying you should criticize. No, of course not.
All right.
But I'm saying that you've criticized him for 8 years. Now you have the power. Now the point is this. Kwesi, there were 3 instances in 2020. One in Savelugu, one in Ododo-Diodio, and one in Techiman. All 3 instances have been investigated. 2 of them are currently in court. The one in Savelugu, 2 people, the Attorney General pressed charges against 2 people. One was the MP at the time, and the court acquitted the MP and said that he has no questions to answer. But one of the charged persons is still in court. In fact, the Attorney General is in court in Kumasi High Court to appeal the decision to acquit one of the persons. So that issue is in court. It has been investigated and it's in court. Number 2, in Ododo-Diodio, that's also in court, in Accra High Court. In fact, as of December 2nd, 2024, a case was adjourned to December 2nd, 2024. I'm yet to know if the sitting actually happened on December 2nd, 2024. But that's as recent as a month ago. And then on the case of Techiman, it has been investigated. The challenge is that there is no ballistic report. And the police and the military are both denying that they didn't shoot anybody. So the investigation, no, I'm telling you, I've done my research. And the investigation is saying that there's no, the docket, there's no ballistic report on the docket. And then there were instances of eyewitness report, etc., but there's no eyewitness report on the docket.
But all President Mahama is asking for is an update.
No, I don't have a problem. I'm just saying that my brother here asked a question whether anything has been done about it. And I'm telling Ghanaians that yes, something has been done about it. So no impression ought to be created. That absolutely nothing has been done. And I'm giving you a summary. Because when I had the topic this last night, I took the time to call specific people and ask questions and get the information. So the fact is that President Mahama can very well argue that he's not satisfied. That's fair. And that he wants updates. That's fair. But nobody, including Edrigi, should not sit here and create a false impression that nothing has been done about it. And that is what I want to put across.
In fact, nobody had actually said nothing had been done.
You are a propaganda man. I just want to make sure that you don't suggest that. So let the record show that something has been done.
The whole idea that you do not even have a ballistic report and that there is a denial that the people who shot into the crowd, killing those 8 people, were not armed officers of the state in itself is insulting to the intelligence of our people.
No. All right, quickly before we go, gentlemen. This one from David says, ask him what Baumia meant when he said he was going to work with 50 ministers. This one from Ebo Bokman says, reducing the number of ministers alone will not significantly lower government expenditure if the administration engages in a copy and paste approach to governance. The president must cut beyond the ministries. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Chumbwa for this final one says Kofi Tonto says Kofi Tonto, that's a shocking take on the matter of 8 of your fellow Ghanaians. That's what Kojo Chumbwa for thinks.
It doesn't make sense.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, gentlemen. For those of you who sent messages on our Facebook page, thank you very much for your messages. I do appreciate them. All your criticisms are well noted and well taken. Thank you very much. Thanks to Edrigi, Tamakolo, thanks to Andrews, and thanks to Kofi Tonto.
A very good friend of you in the media, KOD.
KOD. Yes, it's his birthday.
Yes,
right.
And,
happy birthday to you, KOD. From all of us here. Next is sports.
And Crown Paints. Excellent paint that is resistant to peeling, mold, algae, and fungus. It comes in a wide range of colors with high opacity, high spread rate, and dries fast with no afterpaint stench. Santex and Crown Paints are distributed by Bamson Company Limited. Locate us at Sickens House, Old Fatima Road, South Industrial Area, Accra, or any of our branches in Atabraka, East Legon, Tema, and Adum in Kumasi. Call or WhatsApp us on 0573839640. Santex and Crown Paint. It's not just paint, it's personal.
In the corporate world, time is everything. With M-Ticket, booking your bus ticket is as easy as dialing *265#. Just select your destination, approve payment, and you're ready to go.
There's no car from the terminal.
Terminal by this time. Haven't you heard of M-Ticket?
M-Ticket.
Okay, hold on, let me sort you out.
M-Ticket makes home trip easy anytime, anywhere. For traders, every minute matters. M-Ticket lets you book in seconds, keeping your business.
M-Ticket. Fuck.
From individual trips to group travel, M-Ticket makes booking fast, easy, and stress-free. Dial *265# today.
Hi, my name is Obidumbi Edmund. Let me welcome you to Franco, your home of quality and affordable electrical appliances. Franco has in stock mobile phones, laptops, washing machines, television sets ranging from 32 to 100 inches. Yes, as big as 100 inches. They are very affordable and energy efficient. Yes, so rush to any Franco shop and grab for yourself any of the electrical appliances. Franco, still phone papa.
Based on a recent survey, more than 52% of Ghanaians agree farm animal welfare is important. 65% of Ghanaians believe hens live happy and simple lives free from needless pain. But in reality, they are trapped in tiny cages, subjected to stress and suffering their entire life. There is, however, a better way of preventing them from going through unnecessary pain. Imagine a world where hens are able to roam freely. Give hens the lives they deserve and say no to hen suffering.
Hi viewers, my name is Defenzi. Have you heard of Cash Out? Yes, I have won on Cash Out. It all started one day, my wife was telling me about Cash Out. I was like, what at all is this Cash Out? Okay, so I had money in my Momo and I decided to give it a try. Then I left off to work and I got a message, wow, 5,000 Ghana cedis. Can you imagine? Next week I did it again and I won another 2,000. That same week, my wife also won another 2,000. Cash Out is real. Wow, I'm enjoying. Do you watch TV3? Star 439 hash. Star 439 hash. I will do it over and over again. You too can be a winner.